नमस्कार, मैं अशोक व्यास। कार्यक्रम इनसाइड टुनाइट विद अशोक व्यास में आपका स्वागत है। और वैलेंटाइन डे के ठीक बाद के इस शो में किसी तरह के प्रेम प्रकट करने वाले फूलों के स्थान पर मेरे पीछे आप देख रहे हैं भारत का तिरंगा झंडा। इसके साथ कहीं हम भारत के प्रति जो हमारा प्रेम, जो हमारी श्रद्धा जो प्रजातांत्रिक मूल्यों के प्रति है, उसको साथ लेते हुए जब आपको आज भारत ले जा रहे हैं तो उसका एक खास कारण है। और उस कारण का संबंध एक ऐसे महत्वपूर्ण शिक्षा संस्थान से है जिसका नाम भारत के पहले प्रधानमंत्री जी के साथ जुड़ा हुआ है। जवाहरलाल नेहरू विश्वविद्यालय इन दिनों विवाद के घेरे में आ गया है और साथ ही कुछ मौलिक महत्वपूर्ण प्रश्न इस विवाद के साथ उठ खड़े हुए हैं, जिसका संबंध है अभिव्यक्ति की आजादी क्या राष्ट्र हित के विपरीत जाने की अभिव्यक्ति को भी सम्मिलित करती है। बात क्या हुई है, उस बात को लेकर हम आप तक बढ़े। उससे पहले परिचय करवाएं आज के हमारे उन अतिथियों का जो इस बातचीत को आप तक पहुंचाने में हमारा साथ देने वाले हैं। हमारे साथ हैं एयर इंडिया के ऋषिकांत सिंह जी। ऋषिकांत जी, आपका स्वागत है। हमारे साथ हैं अटर्नी आनंद आहूजा जी। आनंद जी, आपका स्वागत है। और एग्जीक्यूटिव डायरेक्टर साउथ एशियंस फॉर एम्पावरमेंट के साथ साथ कांग्रेस भारतीय जो राजनीतिक दल है उसमें सक्रिय रहने के अलावा जिन्होंने अपने विद्यार्थी जीवन और राजनीतिक जीवन की शुरुआत भी एक तरह से जवाहरलाल नेहरू विश्वविद्यालय से की थी, ऐसे जगजीत सिंह जी हमारे साथ हैं। जगजीत जी, आपका स्वागत है। तो जगजीत जी, आपसे बात शुरू करना चाहता हूं और हमारे दर्शकों तक ये बात पहुंचाएं कि ऐसी क्या बात होती है कि विद्यार्थी इकट्ठा होकर एक महत्वपूर्ण विश्वविद्यालय के परिसर में कुछ इस तरह के नारे लगाने लग जाएं जो एक पड़ोसी राष्ट्र लेकिन जिसके साथ भारत के बहुत मैत्रीपूर्ण संबंध नहीं है उसकी जिंदाबाद के नारे लगा रहे हों। कहीं इस तरह की आवाजें उठ रही हों कि लेकर रहेंगे कश्मीर की आज़ादी या भारत की बर्बादी की बात करने वाले नारे लगा रहे हों। स्थिति क्या हुई, क्या कुछ आप जानते हैं?
देखिए, जितने ही कड़े शब्दों में इस तरह के नारों की निंदा की जाए वो कम है और ये सीधे सीधे एक तरह से देशद्रोह है। और मैं कहूँगा कि ये अभिव्यक्ति की आज़ादी तो कहीं से भी नहीं है, क्योंकि कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन जिस समय आपको राइट टू फ्रीडम ऑफ स्पीच आपका एक फंडामेंटल राइट देता है, उसके साथ साथ ही एक आपके ऊपर डायरेक्टिव प्रिंसिपल्स ऑफ स्टेट पॉलिसी भी होती है जिसके तहत आपकी ड्यूटीज़ भी होती हैं। बहुत सारे मामले ऐसे होते हैं जिसमें हम फंडामेंटल राइट्स को तो याद कर लेते हैं कि ऐसा मेरा मौलिक अधिकार है, लेकिन उसी समय हम अपने मौलिक दायित्व को बिल्कुल ही भूल जाते हैं।
तो मौलिक दायित्व जी, मैं आपकी तरफ फिर से आना चाहता हूँ मौलिक दायित्व को लेकर। लेकिन ऋषिकांत जी, जो कुछ आपने देखा, यूट्यूब आजकल एक माध्यम बन गया है जिसमें कई ऐसे वीडियो आपको दिखाई दिए जिसमें कि विद्यार्थी भारत विरोधी नारे लगाते हुए भारत के एक महत्वपूर्ण शिक्षा संस्थान में दिखाई दिए। क्या आपको लगा, क्या आपकी प्रतिक्रिया है और उससे क्या निष्कर्ष आप निकालते हैं?
नहीं, ये तो बड़ी दुखद बात है कि स्टूडेंट्स, वो भी पढ़े लिखे हैं, पीएचडी स्टूडेंट्स हैं, बहुत ही एडवांस यूनिवर्सिटी है, इंडिया की बहुत मशहूर यूनिवर्सिटी है जेएनयू, और उसके स्टूडेंट्स अगर कहें कि पाकिस्तान जिंदाबाद, डाउन विद इंडिया, या वी विल ब्रेक इंडिया इनटू पीसेस, या इस तरह से करें कि वी विल डिवाइड द कंट्री, तो आई थिंक इससे ज़्यादा शेमफुल तो कोई एक्ट हो ही नहीं सकता।
ये शेमफुल एक्ट जो है उसको लेकर जब हम आगे आम जनता की और राजनीतिक दलों की प्रतिक्रिया की तरफ जाएं, उससे पहले कानूनी नज़र से देखें आनंद जी, जब आप तुलना करें कि, और क्योंकि इस तरह के लेख भी आए कुछ अखबारों में कि अमेरिका में अभिव्यक्ति की आज़ादी है, भारत में अभिव्यक्ति की आज़ादी होनी चाहिए, और अभिव्यक्ति की आज़ादी के नाम पर क्या आप भारत विरोधी इस तरह के नारों को सामूहिक रूप से, वो भी एक सरकारी फंड से चलने वाले शैक्षिक संस्थान में चलने की अनुमति दे सकते हैं?
Ashok ji, as other panelists, they have expressed their opinions. I would also like to echo their sentiments that this is a very shameful act on the part of whosoever has instigated them or whosoever is basically instrumental in creating that kind of atmosphere in the country. After having said that, I don't think that any constitution of whether it's India or United States gives absolute right to freedom of expression. There is a provision in the Indian Constitution freedom of speech, freedom of expression, but there's no such right which can be labeled as absolute right. All these rights, they come along with some riders. Even in United States also, there is a time, manner, place, content. These are the restrictions. You cannot have absolute right to express your opinion even in the United States. You cannot have a speech which can incite and create riots in this country. You cannot have a speech which is obscene. So there are some restrictions in United States as well as in India.
Absolutely.
So in India, I personally believe this is not an expression of speech what they are claiming for, but it's a clear-cut case of sedition. So you cannot have anti-national slogans or to the extent that you go and appreciate your enemy country. Even if you say in British time also, whether it was Bhagat Singh or Mahatma Gandhi, all those disobedience movements, all those protests, all those bunds were saying Angrezo Bharat Chodo. But nowhere you'll see, even in that freedom movement, anybody taking slogans or making slogans in support of an enemy country. So this is a
So I would refrain from comparing it from that era for various reasons, but coming back to various slogans which were raised and from where comes the root of support for someone who attacked Indian Parliament and they were actually gathering in the name of organizing a cultural program, a poetry reading which was titled "The Country Without Post Office," something like that. But what happened is there were slogans which were supporting Afzal Guru and they were also claiming that from each home there will be someone like this guy who attacked Indian Parliament. तो ये जगजीत जी क्या कारण है कि उसको वो judicious killing ठहराते हुए and why so much sympathy for those who have worked against India and no words of sympathy or emotions expressed for people who have died for India?
This thing has to be understood. Let me take you back as to how the events happened. Permission was taken from the Vice Chancellor's office of the university to host a cultural program, a poetry reading, A Country Without Post Office. The permission was granted. Later on, at 3 o'clock, on 9th, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the Vice Chancellor office was notified that posters which have been put up for the event, apart from reading about the poetry recital, also says against the judicial killing of Afzal Guru and Maqbool Bhatt. The Vice Chancellor's office immediately then and there cancelled the permission granted to host the event. But in spite of that, these students, some of them who have now suddenly gone absconding, they hosted this program, and in that program slogans like Pakistan Zindabad, tum kitne afzal maroge, har ghar se afzal niklega, and all sorts of that things were raised. Something which is deplorable.
I'll come back to you. You mentioned that they have suddenly gone absconding. तो सडनली नहीं गए हैं. 9 फरवरी को ये घटना होती है. उसके बाद 3 दिन तक इनमें से कुछ विद्यार्थी, खास करके उमर खालिद उनका नाम है, वो काफ़ी मीडिया चैनल्स में, लाइव शोज में वकालत कर रहे थे वो सब बातों की जो उन्होंने जवाहरलाल नेहरू यूनिवर्सिटी में अन्य विद्यार्थियों के साथ मिलकर की थी. और भारत सरकार की संविधान की क्या वो आलोचना कर रहे हैं, क्या वो संविधान में और सर्वोच्च न्यायालय के निर्णय को सम्मान के साथ देखते हैं या नहीं, इसके बारे में जो बहस हो रही थी उसमें वो खुलकर चर्चा कर रहे थे. नो आनंद जी, क्वेश्चन इज 3 दिन तक 4 दिन तक मीडिया में, कुछ मीडिया में खास करके ये घटना दिखाई जाती रही और ये सवाल उठाया जाता रहा कि ऐसे राष्ट्र विरोधी तत्वों के खिलाफ कोई कार्रवाई क्यों नहीं हो रही है. फिर गृह मंत्री के बयान के बाद कि ऐसा कोई भी अभिव्यक्ति का मंच अगर राष्ट्र विरोधी ताकतें प्रयोग में लाती हैं तो वो बर्दाश्त नहीं किया जाएगा। दिल्ली पुलिस सक्रिय हुई और दिल्ली यूनिवर्सिटी, जवाहरलाल नेहरू यूनिवर्सिटी के अध्यक्ष कन्हैया कुमार को गिरफ्तार कर लिया गया। तो इसके बाद का जो घटनाक्रम है उस तरफ हम जाएं उससे पहले ये जो सडनली बात आई कि वो अचानक गायब होंगे, तो बाकी के जो विद्यार्थी हैं जिनके नाम बाद में आए हैं वो जाहिर है इतने समय में तो निकल जाएंगे। तो जो हमारा सिस्टम है वो लोगों को पकड़ने के पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से कानूनी तौर पर मुस्तैद नहीं है, या हम पहले तय नहीं कर पाते हैं कि हमारा सचमुच कौन शत्रु पक्ष है, या बिकॉज लॉ गिव्स लॉन्ग रेंज for people to behave the way they behave. How would you analyze this?
Ashok ji, actually there are two issues here. One is law as per the books. That's a different thing. Implementation of those laws much depends on the political environment of the country also. Say for example, I personally believe that in spite of good laws on the books, there is helplessness on the part of police also. The reason for that is that in India, by and large, everybody has some political my-baap. So if you arrest somebody, you are basically taking that particular risk of having a bigger problem, and the bigger problem is that possibly there will be riots in the country. So to avoid that particular situation, police and administration, by and large, they have to take a very cautious approach. So you may call it laxness, you may call it delay on their part, you may call it helplessness on their part, or you may call it an over-cautious approach on their part. So other than that, I don't see that it was an intentional act on the part of administration to let these goons slip away. I hope you won't mind if I use the word goons, because in my opinion, they are nothing but goons. So
Anand, I hold you with this word goons used for people who are chanting slogans in India against India, but a lot of political parties, including some of the students and of course academicians of Jawaharlal Nehru University, are standing by the students, and they are objecting to the arrest of Delhi University's student body's president also. So as we speak, even though it is clear what they did is not in the interest of India, the report which university has submitted to the government says that despite the university, as Jagjeet ji mentioned already, despite the university deciding to withdraw the permission, the student went ahead with the program where allegedly certain objectionable slogans were raised. The organizers also invited the media to cover it without permission from university authorities. Now, what action university has taken? The report from the university says the university constituted a high-level inquiry committee comprising of 3 members to inquire into the incident. On the basis of the internal report, 8 students were identified. And what they did for these students who were identified by the panel, they have been debarred from academic activities while allowing them to stay in hostel as guests. Now that also kind of appears as difficult to understand. Why should such people who are acting against Indian interest should be allowed to continue to stay as guests? What kind of system is this, Rishiji? How do you read in the report which is submitted by university?
I think after me, Jagjeet ji must comment since he is a GNU student. But well, this kind of dichotomy that we show is very typical of India and our democracy. We have a lot of freedom. We are very sensitive to issues, particularly if it is minority issues. We are very hesitant to call a spade a spade. We would like to tread always in grey rather than black and white. So in this situation, you have rusticated them from studies, but you are allowing them to stay there as guests. You are inviting more trouble.
But can I add one thing?
Absolutely.
In any judicial process, there is something known as due process also. So at times what happens, if you have rusticated them and at the same time without any proper inquiry is to be submitted by the JNU administration by 25th of February. So any drastic action they take before February 25th, there is a possibility that it may misfire. So as I said earlier, that it's better for them to take a precautionary approach, to be little more overcautious, than to take a drastic action and then exposing themselves to a bigger problem. And as Sheikh Anji said rightly, that especially when it comes to the issue of minorities, we have to be a little more careful.
Now, what one can easily infer from the speech given by the President of Delhi University, which is also available on YouTube, and different slogans, looks like there is a very deep dissent, call it, or on the border of hatred towards Modi government, towards RSS, towards BJP, and probably that is also fueling these kind of sentiments additionally, which are, I don't know what kind of ideology leads them to think that they stay in India and work for breaking India and chant those slogans collectively in the university premises. If we just try to understand and think where they are coming from, Jagjeet ji, what can you think?
See, JNU since its very inception has been a left-dominated students' political university. It has been a red bastion all in all. Way back in 1983, when I had initiated to start the NSUI in JNU, it was a very difficult task for me to get people with Congress ideology to come together on a platform in JNU. And we had to face a difficult battle within the student community itself to start the Congress ideology within the student community. And you have many JNUSU ex-presidents who hold pivotal positions in the left party, like for example Prakash Karat. He was an erstwhile JNUSU president. Sitaram Yechuri, he is an erstwhile JNUSU president. D.P. Tripathi, who is now associated with the Nationalist Congress Party, he was a JNUSU president, and many others who hold prominent positions within the left party and who hold that kind of an ideology are considered to be godfathers of the left-oriented students within that university, and they feel that this is perhaps the proper way. Like for example, even when in Dantewada Maoists had killed so many people, it was celebrated in JNU, which was totally wrong. It is only now that when anti-India slogans have been raised, and it's now a time of social media where everything comes to light, that people all over India are aware of something of this kind happening. A university which is totally subsidized, a university where the taxpayers pay roughly 3 lakh rupees per year per student. The university mess meal during our time used to be 100 or 125 rupees, which may now be 250 or something.
Okay, so continue with thanks to social media, and Jagjeet, just to support what you are saying, at the moment the room rent per month, can you imagine how much it is in Delhi?
11 rupees.
11 rupees, man. So 11 rupees, you as a student of Jawaharlal University are getting room for the whole month. And what you rightly said, is annual fees now is 219 rupees.
Yeah.
That is per year.
Per year.
Per year. And that you also can pay in installments. So, of course, this continues for the mass bills, and they have, I think, pretty good hostel facilities also.
Very beautiful hostel facilities. During my time, we had just 6 hostels. Now we have 22, which means the student population has risen up to a great extent. And this student body is more or less, every time during the elections we see, it is the left-oriented body which wins. And it's a massive propaganda for these people which go around there propagating the leftist ideology. And that is where things come from. And you to score high with their godfathers, they speak all sorts of ultra-left languages so that they can prosper within the political party.
Now, talking about prosperity within political party, talking about patriotism and how student politics is coming under the influence of those forces which are essentially working against India. But even after, which is what happened, is clearly visible through social media, the kind of slogans which, being away from India also, you would like to hear here away from India on the streets of Manhattan while celebrating India Day parade or other occasions, Indian Americans proudly chant Bharat Mata Ki Jai, Jai Hind, whereas in the capital of India, New Delhi, students of Jawaharlal Nehru University wishing for the destruction of India in their slogans collectively. How much shameful that is to watch. But Anandji, the kind of reaction which we have received to this incident from various political parties, and we are showing the image of Rahul Gandhi having addressed, of course Kejriwal and the left parties have also offered their tacit support, but looks like each party is out there to score some mileage from whatever happens. So if we just take a macro look at the way parties are approaching problems, is it only the concern of consolidating their political base, or there is real concern for the nation?
Shokti, it's a very good question you have asked. I personally believe why JNU only? Take any education institution, why an education institution should be politicized? Why politics should infiltrate an educational institution? After all, students go there to get some education, get some degree, and eventually make some career. I am not against expressing your political opinion. Say, for example, in United States, in university colleges, there is a Democrat club, there is a Republican club, but politics has not infiltrated into the educational institutions. You have a right to have your political opinion. Unfortunately, in India, say for example, what happened with the Film Institute. Students have been on strike. Again, now things have gone beyond control. I personally believe that, as they say, that nip the evil in the bud. So if you, in the very beginning, you take control of the education institutions and let students be made aware of one fact, that you have come here to study and your stay here in the institution is a temporary institution. This is not an arena for you to learn politics and enter into active politics. Unfortunately, in India, all major political parties, they like to take advantage of a situation, whether it's and unfortunately, most of the times, it happens to be taking advantage of a bad situation. This happened today. It happened with Jacob Menon's judgment case. Political parties, they enter into the arena and they started taking advantage of, and I fail to understand what political mileage you can take out of a situation where within your own country, the students are chanting slogans to divide country.
Absolutely, like we are showing some images taken from, thanks to Z News, where this cultural evening was organized, which was titled Country Without a Post Office, and they were chanting slogans to support someone who attacked the Indian Parliament. Going back to the political environment in educational institutions, where students go for higher education, they need to focus more, and here you keep hearing from students that they don't have time to do anything other than study. Rishiji, what has been your experience and looking at this scenario? If you are a participant of students' politics, then you should probably have more focus on the localized issue, or you would go for these kind of issues which basically relates to Kashmir issue or support for Kashmir freedom, and that too being in Delhi. It kind of doesn't make sense.
नहीं, जैसे आपने कहा और आहूजा साहब ने समझाया कि एक्चुअली हायर एजुकेशन एंड इंस्टीट्यूशंस ऑफ एजुकेशन शुड नॉट बी politicized. That is absolutely correct. In the administration, there shouldn't be politicized. It is always good to have healthy debates, provided they make sense. They're not anti-nationalist. I mean, there's a responsibility of the citizens of India to protect the integrity of the country, and students are not above that. And no university is exempt from any such thing. It's good to have an independent opinion, but you should know where to restrict. And certainly politics must be taught. Actually, I won't say politics, but the institutions of politics should be taught at the school level. the civic government, etc. We have a class, history and civics is normally combined. But the thing is, the practical side is not implemented. In US, what we see is the school students, you will find, they are in the state houses, in the legislature, they're taken a tour. I've seen even lieutenant governor of a state actually take active interest in participate with the students and interact with the students, plus any visitor has the right to visit. So to that extent, it's a very progressive system where from childhood you're taught, okay, what is right, what is wrong, what is politics, how does it play a role in the building of a nation, not destruction of a nation. So that kind of education can be carried into the school and university level, but like you have rightly expressed, the main purpose of you going to an educational institution is not to prepare yourself for politics. Unfortunately, the Indian universities and colleges are the absolute starting point for most politics. All the youth youth leaders from all parties, you will find, come from basically from the school and college, and they are encouraged. I've had direct experience myself when I was a student, and my younger sister actually happened to be the university representative, the only rare ones who was independent and who managed to get elected as a university representative in Bombay. So she could have had a fantastic career. Most of her colleagues who were elected at that time are ministers in either this government or that government. So we all had that opportunity. I myself had that opportunity. In my time, I have also raised some slogans. Early enough, I should say, but somewhere good sense prevails, or at least what appeared to be good sense is concentrate on the career, go forward in life. Politics, yes, but not at the cost of the nation and not at the cost of your family.
So not at the cost of the family, or at the cost of the family could be an individual's decision, but not at the cost of the nation is definitely something with which everyone needs to abide by. आज हम बात कर रहे हैं एक ऐसे मुद्दे पर जिसके बारे में बात करने की ज़रूरत आज पड़नी ही नहीं चाहिए थी कि पॉलिटिक्स और पैट्रियटिज्म ये दोनों छात्र समुदाय के बीच में जिस तरह का एक वैमनस्यपूर्ण वातावरण लेकर हमारे सामने आ रहे हैं, उसका बहुत ही एक घिनौना सा स्वरूप जवाहरलाल नेहरू यूनिवर्सिटी के विद्यार्थियों द्वारा जो भारत विरोधी स्लोगन्स उठाए गए एक सांस्कृतिक कार्यक्रम के नाम पर, उसको लेकर भारत में एक तरह का असंतोष, आक्रोश व्याप्त है। एंड इस तरह की घटना के बाद उसके कई तरह के परिणाम निकलते हैं, कई तरह की प्रतिक्रियाएं होती हैं राजनीतिक दलों की तरफ से भी। कानून और व्यवस्था बनाए रखने के लिए सरकार इस तरह की स्थिति से कैसे निपटती है? क्या भारत विरोधी बातचीत करने वाले समूह को आवेश के साथ भारत विरोधी नारे लगाने के लिए पूरी छूट होनी चाहिए? क्या वो अभिव्यक्ति की आज़ादी है? भारत की सुरक्षा और आंतरिक सुरक्षा के लिए जिस तरह का संवेदनशील माहौल है, ऐसे में अगर कोई अल्लाह के नाम पर भारत को तोड़ने की बात सामूहिक रूप से अपने स्वर मिलाकर जवाहरलाल नेहरू यूनिवर्सिटी परिसर में करे, तो क्या उसकी अनदेखी किया जाना ठीक है? क्या उसके समर्थन में राजनीतिक दलों को आना चाहिए? क्या स्थिति हो सकती है, क्या होनी चाहिए? इसके बारे में बातचीत जारी रखेंगे हम इस छोटे से ब्रेक के बाद। बने रहें हमारे साथ। ब्लैक करके आ जाए। वेलकम बैक, यू आर वाचिंग इनसाइड टुनाइट द शो व्यास, और हम बात कर रहे हैं पॉलिटिक्स और पैट्रियटिज्म की। जवाहरलाल नेहरू यूनिवर्सिटी के विद्यार्थियों द्वारा हुए एक भारत विरोधी नारों से जुड़े हुए प्रोटेस्ट को लेकर अफजल गुरु के समर्थन में छात्र एक साथ नारे लगाने के लिए अचानक इतने वर्षों बाद क्यों निकल आए, इसके बारे में भी प्रश्न किया जा सकता है, किया जाना चाहिए भी। थोड़ी सी चर्चा इस पर की जाए। जगजीत सिंह जी, टाइमिंग की बात करें, 2001 में जो घटना हुई, 2013 में संभवतः फांसी दी गई, उसके बारे में उसको सुप्रीम कोर्ट के निर्णय को जुडिशियस किलिंग करार देते हुए छात्र अब इस तरह मुखरित हों आवेश के साथ, उसके पीछे क्या मानसिकता, क्या कारण आप देख सकते हैं?
देखिए, ये मैं मानता हूं कि जेएनयू ने, जवाहरलाल नेहरू विश्वविद्यालय ने इस देश को बहुत कुछ दिया है। आज देश का फॉरेन सेक्रेटरी जवाहरलाल नेहरू विश्वविद्यालय का ही छात्र रहा है। आज देश के मंत्रीगण भी मोदी साहब के कैबिनेट में जवाहरलाल विश्वविद्यालय के स्टूडेंट रहे हैं। ये कुछ फ्रिंज एलिमेंट हैं जिनको हमको आइडेंटिफाई करना होगा, जो इस तरह के कार्यक्रम को बढ़ावा दे रहे हैं। इन फ्रिंज एलिमेंट्स को देखें अगर, तो कई बार हम ये भी करते हैं कि बीजेपी में भी जैसे साक्षी महाराज है, कुछ ऐसे लोग हैं जो मैंने समाज को तोड़ने वाले वक्तव्य जारी करते हैं। उस तरह से कुछ लोग शायद जवाहरलाल नेहरू यूनिवर्सिटी में भी आए जो इस तरह के वक्तव्य जारी कर रहे हैं और जो लोगों को उकसा रहे हैं और प्रेरित कर रहे हैं बाकी छात्र समुदाय को इस तरह के विचारधारा के लिए। तो इन लोगों को आइडेंटिफाई करना होगा और यहां कानून सामने आता है। होम मिनिस्टर का वक्तव्य बड़ा ही बढ़िया रहा था, जिन्होंने राजनाथ सिंह जी ने यह कहा था कि किसी भी दोषी व्यक्ति को जो राष्ट्र विरोधी नारे लगा रहा हो, जो राष्ट्र विरोधी विचारधारा रखता हो, उसको बख्शा नहीं जाएगा और बख्शा नहीं जाना चाहिए। जेएनयू एक ऐसा विश्वविद्यालय रहा है जहां शुरुआत से ही देश विदेश सभी।
मैं क्षमा चाहता हूं आपको, मैं फिर से आना चाहता हूं क्योंकि आपने एक बहुत महत्वपूर्ण बात कही कि देश विरोधी बात करने वाले को बख्शा नहीं जाना चाहिए, पर उसके खिलाफ कार्रवाई करने की स्थिति में जिस तरह की प्रतिक्रिया अन्य राजनीतिक दलों की हुई, आनंद जी आप बताएं कि जिस तरह से इन विद्यार्थियों के समर्थन में जिन्होंने भारत विरोधी आंदोलन जैसी बात खुलकर परिसर में कही है, अगर कांग्रेस के नेता राहुल गांधी जाकर बोलते हैं या सीपीआईएम के लीडर्स बोलते हैं, तो व्हाट डू यू रीड इन दैट?
Ashok ji, मैं actually I will speak, if you permit me, I'd like to touch 3 points. One, with due respect, I don't agree with Jagjeet ji that there are fringe elements. If you see the pattern, especially in the last couple of years, whether it was the Yaqub Mehman case, whether it was the Pathankot incident, whether it was the sacrilege of Shri Guru Granth Sahib in Punjab. So if you see all those incidents, I am unable to believe that these are because of fringe elements. I personally believe it's a pattern, and pattern, before I come to what the role our political parties are playing in that, I personally believe there is a possibility that the foreign powers, they also are not very comfortable to see India's progress. So to destabilize India, there is a possibility that foreign powers, they are actively getting involved in India, either directly or through funding some those activities in India. The second issue is, irrespective of whatever the judgment a Supreme Court of a country has given, as citizens of that particular country, it's our duty to respect the decision of the Supreme Court. After all, there is a judicial system in the country. So again, coming back to Yaqub Mehman case or coming back to Afzal Guru case, whatever the decision a Supreme Court of the country has given, everybody should have accepted that, everybody should have respected that. Now coming back to the question of role of political parties in India, unfortunately, most of our political parties in the country, they are more interested in getting mileage out of any incident than having any interest for the country.
Okay, so allow me to sort of try and understand, young leader, if I say young, of Congress Party, Vice President Rahul Gandhi, when he goes and addresses the students and says that he's with them, Rishiji, do you think he has seen all those videos? He's clear about what kind of slogans were chanted? They do their thorough research in terms of who they are supporting? I mean, of course, we can only guess.
Yeah, we can only speculate because at least I have not been privileged to be the inner circle in politics. But nevertheless, one has interacted sufficiently at different levels. So one can say that a lot of preparation is done by the party. There are enough party think tanks, workers who come together. There's a lot of communication within parties. In fact, it's a full-time profession. So they do that, they do understand issues. But when the leaders go out, it is of course an individual leader's capability that matters and how they conduct themselves and what they communicate. But there's also a strategy. Very often there is a strategy. Occasionally, of course, on the spur of the moment, people react and they make faux pas. but mostly it is a strategy. And in the case that we are seeing regularly and very repeatedly, as Ahuja Sahab has clearly described, incident after incident, you are seeing that the various opposition parties, the one who are out of power, seem to be as though they are, hankering for power. They are desperate to get in. They are desperate to topple the government of the day. There is certainly no concerted effort to work towards a nationalist agenda. So that is one drawback of India, which you don't see in the West. You see that in critical situations in the Western countries, all the ideologies come together in the national interest. That's something we can learn from the rest of the world.
Now, talking about learning from the world and talking about what we can learn from India itself, from the sacrifices of the people who have made India what it is, and even now there are people who are protecting India at the border. There are a lot of people that needs to be thanked. But what is happening, instead of showing gratefulness for those people who are making us live as a free India, why students' body find these kind of issues more close to their heart? For example, this so-called cultural program organized, for which the permission was denied, but it was essentially aimed at raising voice in favor of freedom for Kashmir. As if these are the people who have landed from Pakistan and speaking the language of people who do not have their heart in India.
That is why I say that law has to come down heavily on these people. Anybody who shouts slogans against India, the law has to come down very heavily, and they need to made to understand that you are living in India. If you are an Indian, you have to abide by the Indian Constitution, not just by saying that yes, I abide by the Constitution. Your actions and your whatever you portray in public has to be India-centric.
Okay, so now the force with which people should support, if there is any action being taken against those who are involved in anti-national, anti-India activities, that kind of forceful support you don't see. What you see is people coming out openly criticizing Home Minister Rajnath Singh for having made a statement that there was foreign hand, in the sense that Pakistan-based Hafiz Saeed supported this particular event. And one clue that we can guess was related to a tweet which was on the social media by someone where the handler's name is Hafiz Saeed, probably.
Yeah.
So, and there could be something more to it. But as soon as this statement was made, be it opposition parties, be it student bodies, be it academicians of Jawaharlal Nehru University, they shouted as if the whole India is going against the freedom of expression. So the sensibility seems to be tilted towards the direction which seems to put India in further potential danger. Anandji, how do you see?
I personally believe that there shouldn't be, for anybody living in India or anybody who has love and for India, whether they are, even if they are not living in India, if you are an Indian, for you, the love and interest of your country should be paramount. Everything should be after that. Unfortunately, for political parties, that's not there. That concept of true patriotism is lacking primarily amongst our politicians in India. They have to take a solemn pledge. It's not the laws. As Jagjeet said, that laws have to be heavy on these people. It's not the laws, it's the implementation of laws. Yeah. And implementation of those laws cannot take place unless our politicians, they take a solemn pledge that come what may, when it comes to the question of interest of the nation, they have to stand united. And I will give you an example. When there was war against India-Pakistan war, Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji at that time made a statement that Indra is Durga, right? So he at that time, even though he was in opposition, he gave a title of Durga to Prime Minister of India. I see that kind of spirit now lacking amongst our politicians in India.
Now, whether that kind of spirit which brings everybody under the one umbrella of being an Indian is lacking in India, and how that can come back, we don't know. But at this point, the situation is critical because there are people protesting why the student leader was arrested. And there are reports coming in that some of the students who were seen in this protest video of Jawaharlal Nehru University chanting pro-Kashmir freedom slogan, pro-Pakistan slogan, pro-Afzal Guru slogan, some of them may have had some link to Pakistan. These reports are still coming and they need to be substantiated. We really don't have the complete picture in front of us, but you don't need to have complete picture in front of you. Based on these slogans, you can see where their mind is, where their affiliation, their inclination is, how this situation needs to be handled so that Jawaharlal Nehru University, which has such a prestigious place in India, in the world, it has its name, doesn't lose the image that is there, and students who are not actually actively participating in the politics do not suffer because of what happened on one day. Rishiji, the way things are happening looks like it's not going to be easy to tie it back, and what kind of fallout from this one may anticipate?
No, I'm not sure that it cannot be corrected. It can be corrected. Positive statements have to be coming from the administration. The student leaders and various bodies are there. Even if the president of the student union for any reason is arrested, that may be so. Obviously, he would have had a hand. That's what would be there. There would be some evidence of it. But there would be other bodies. There are other people who can speak. You have to allow them to speak. The media should play that kind of a role where it does a balancing act. If there were anti-India slogans and there were marches and protests, I am sure that there is a patriotic movement as well. I feel so that Indians are very, very patriotic, and there would be enough voice even coming from the student community, from the faculty, from the Delhi administration, from the government of India, to portray a very positive image, and not everything is wrong with the university that has produced great luminaries.
Absolutely. And Jagjit, since you are yourself alumni of JNU, recently also after HRD ministry under Smriti Irani has started functioning with Modi government, there have been issues where with UGC or with Jawaharlal Nehru University, there have been differences on various issues. Probably one which I recollect, there was a proposal from HRD ministry about starting some course related to yoga and culture, or Indian culture or yoga, and the UGC turned that down. So there is some kind of undercurrent that this administration is imposing, as you would hear. It appears as the academicians were seen returning their awards, or maybe saying that the government is working against scientific interests. So that debate and this debate, people would see them merging each other, which again is probably not the correct way of looking at it.
At this point of time, what is being portrayed is the government suppressing the freedom of speech. This is what is generally being portrayed. But if you look at closely what we see on YouTube and different TV channels coming from India, that the kind of slogans which were shouted, it's nowhere freedom of speech. It is clear-cut case of sedition. And this needs to be stopped. See, a simple example. One rotten apple spoils the whole cart. And this is the case of such. There are many students I believe at this point of time, there are many most of the students of JNU are patriotic. And even at this time, there were students who were shouting slogans, countering the slogans of Pakistan Murdabad with Bharat Mata ki Jai. This was also happening. So that is also a part of JNU. But at the same time, when these people need to be identified, and I believe Kanhaiya Kumar, who has been arrested and remanded to judicial custody, he will be in a better position to identify the fellow students from the television videos as to who these elements were who were shouting, and then they can be later traced on, booked under the various sections of the law and questioned and traced where there is any link with ISI or anything of that kind. This is a matter which cannot be taken lightly. It is a matter of national security and national integration, because when you talk about dividing India into different parts, har ghar se afzal niklega, things of that kind, it has to be taken seriously and traced all the way till the end.
Trace all the way till the end. Is that happening in the right way or not? We don't know exactly how it is going to play out, whether those who are protesting for the freedom of expression takes the upper hand based on different columnists writing columns supporting students for their freedom of expression. But it is very difficult to understand how can you support the people who chant that India is going to break, and I even feel it is quite unsettling to hear these kind of voices where Bharat tere tukde honge, India ki barbadi tak jang rahegi, coming from students who are studying in a prestigious Indian university. But what next? Anandji, what can you see? Will this lead to an amicable solution in near future, or because based on the stands taken by different political parties so far as we see it, and Delhi government has also established one commission for inquiry?
First of all, I personally consider these students nothing but pawns. I question the integrity and the judgment of their parents also. So what kind of upbringing their parents have given to them. What political parties, what political leaders, how they are using these pawns. So that's very important. Now, I personally believe that if government of India right now does not take stern actions, it will be conveying a wrong message to others, anti-national elements, and in future there are going to be more protests like this. So to avoid that kind of situation, it's very important for the government of India to take stern actions against these elements, whether they are fringe elements or it's calculative efforts on the part of certain people in the country. So unless some strong actions are taken against these people, we cannot find a better future for India.
Now, if I may just add, we were also as students part of student movement. I remember clearly in 1983, we had a big agitation student movement in Jawaharlal Nehru University campus, in which approximately about over 800 students had courted arrest. We were taken to Tihar jail. We were there for about 10 to 12 days. But nobody ever said anything against India as such. The whole movement was for a student's cause. It started from the food being provided in the mess. Primarily, student interest was the main bottom line. But now it is beyond the student's interest per se, but it is going towards sedition. This has to be stopped.
राजनीति और राष्ट्रद्रोह, इन दोनों का अर्थ समझना होगा भारत के राजनेताओं को भी और आम लोगों को भी. फिर एक ऐसी स्थिति आ सकती है कि इनमें से किसी एक विद्यार्थी का नाम वहां तक पहुंच जाए जहां उसको आज समर्थन देने के लिए किसी राजनेता को बाद में शर्मिंदा होना पड़े. जैसा कि डेविड हेडली की गवाही से ये स्पष्ट हुआ कि इशरत जहां, जिसका मामला पहले सामने आया था जब गुजरात में मोदी सरकार थी, और एक खबर ये भी थी कि नीतीश कुमार जी ने उन्हें बिहार की बेटी कहा, जिसका आज उन्होंने खंडन किया है कि ऐसा उन्होंने नहीं कहा था. बहरहाल मामला पेचीदा है ऐसा लगता है, पर हर समस्या का समाधान होता ही है, और समाधान की तरफ बढ़ने के लिए जिस तरह के हालात हैं वो सब संबंधित पक्षों की तरफ से एक अतिरिक्त समझ की अपेक्षा करते हैं। बहुत संक्षेप में अंतिम रिमार्क्स के रूप में ऋषि जी, इफ यू वर टू एडवाइज होम मिनिस्टर एट दिस पॉइंट, एनीथिंग दैट कम्स टू योर माइंड?
नहीं, लाइक माई को पैनलिस्ट हैव सजेस्टेड वेरी स्ट्रांगली कि ऐसी जब सिचुएशन है कि जहाँ पे सेडिशन का जैसे चार्ज है, इज़ अ वेरी मेजर चार्ज, एंटी नेशनल चार्ज जो है, एंड बेसिकली इट शुड बी it can lead to actually capital punishment. That is the punishment that should be applied, but I wouldn't go that far as students is concerned, but definitely preventive arrests are required, investigation to trace out the roots, and very strong action that is publicly there with public statements coming from the government and from prominent people. I think it is also people's responsibility, particularly enlightened citizens, to come forward and put a very positive spin to this and don't just get carried away with all the negative propaganda that happens.
तो सरकार का विरोध करने का अर्थ ये नहीं है कि आप राष्ट्र का ही विरोध करने लग जाएं। ये बात भारत के राजनेताओं को ऐसे समय में, ऐसे संवेदनशील समय में विशेष रूप से समझने की आवश्यकता है। अगर वो विद्यार्थियों के साथ काम करें तो उन्हें वो दृष्टि विकसित करने में भी मदद करें जिसमें वो अपना और राष्ट्र का कल्याण देखने की स्थिति तक पहुंच सकें और अपने ही पैरों पर कुल्हाड़ी मारने से बच सकें। इस बिंदु तक पहुंचते हुए पॉलिटिक्स एंड पैट्रियोटिज्म, राष्ट्रद्रोह राजनीति, इस संदर्भ को लेते हुए जो परिचर्चा हमारी आयोजित हुई उसमें सम्मिलित होने के लिए ऋषिकांत सिंह जी का, आनंद आहूजा जी का और जगजीत सिंह जी का बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। हमारे साथ बने रहने के लिए आप सभी का आभार। कल फिर दें हमारा साथ शाम 7:30 बजे, जब हम मिलेंगे तो कुछ चर्चा होगी अमेरिका की राजनीति पर भी। अनुमति दें। नमस्कार।